The whole world was horrified when news broke about the Brazilian Vopas airline crash that killed all 62 passengers on board on Friday. Unfortunately, the news just got even worse. Doctors on board the ill-fated flight bound for Sao Paulo's International Airport were convinced they had discovered a cure for cancer, and clinical trials were in an advanced stage. Now, with the doctors tragically silenced by unseen forces, clinical trials have been halted, and surviving researchers acknowledge that crucial knowledge was lost with their untimely deaths. Mainstream media are working desperately to censor this information on behalf of Big Pharma, but the evidence is damning, and we need to work together to spread this information as far and wide as possible. Vaccines and cancer cures, there's no such thing as coincidences. There were 8 cancer doctors on the 68 passenger plane that crashed in Brazil. Initially it was supposed to be 15, but 7 doctors changed their flights to an earlier takeoff for that day. These doctors were travelling to Sao Paulo to take part in a cancer and vaccine conference called SBTMO 2024. The Big Pharma-controlled Western media has been desperately attempting to cover up the nature of the conference these doctors were attending, because it blows the story wide open and destroys their lies. SBTMO stands for Brazilian Society of Bone Marrow Transplantation and Cellular Therapy. The society establishes standards and accreditation programs for cellular therapy. In other words, they decide what is considered real or fake in the cancer field. They decide if treatments and cures are accredited or not. According to reports from Brazil, many of the doctors on the doomed flight to the cancer conference in Sao Paulo were furious with Big Pharma and determined to help the billions of people who have been duped into taking the poisonous shots. Meet Dr. Leo Ferreira, a colleague of the doctors whose lives were cut short by the bizarre plane crash in Brazil. Dr. Ferreira discovered a way to program regulatory T cells to attack tumours, a major breakthrough. His method showed an incredible 90% remission in the lab, and they had moved on to advanced animal testing.
They were about to announce a groundbreaking cancer cure. It was going to shock the world. They had been working with Dr. Ferreira, but a lot of the knowledge and expertise has gone down with that plane.
There is, however, one subset of T cells that tumors are very happy to have, and that's the regulatory T cells. So unlike the conventional T cells, they're usually not designed to kill. They inhibit specific immune responses, and solid tumors are really enriched in these cells. So what I found is that if I take a page from the CAR T cell book and put a CAR targeting a tumor antigen on a Treg, this CAR Treg actually kills the tumor cell. And compared with a naturally activated Treg, it makes a lot more inflammatory cytokines, including interferon gamma and TNF-alpha and others. And so what we're finding then is that something about the way the CAR signals in a Treg makes it become less suppressive, less inhibitory, and more pro-inflammatory and cytotoxic. So our hope is that because Tregs are this ability to infiltrate solid tumors, if we can put a CAR in them that targets solid tumors, actually infiltrate and destroy the solid tumor. And in addition, it's been shown as the inflammatory cytokines further reprogram, destabilize the suppressive immunomicroenvironment of the solid tumor. So the idea here is to have this Trojan horse, this CAR Treg, that will traffic to solid tumors and kill the cells when it's there and help recruit more inflammatory immune cells over there. And so right now we have a lot of data in vitro on what these CAR Tregs look like after activation, what their chemokine expression level is like, chemokine receptors as well. We're currently doing immunocompetent mouse models to test how powerful these CAR Tregs are in solid tumors.
Mainstream media is desperate to discredit anybody who shares this information and censor these reports on behalf of their paymasters Big Pharma, to stop the masses from learning about the truth. But we have the receipts, and it's imperative that we share this information with as many people as possible to wake up the masses and hasten the demise of the Big Pharma cartel that's causing so much damage and destroying so many lives around the world. According to Dr. Richard Day in 1969, the cancer cure has existed for 80 years, but was ruthlessly suppressed by the Rockefeller Big Pharma cartel. Dr. Day, from the Rockefeller-controlled Planned Parenthood, told doctors in 1969, "We can cure almost every cancer right now. Information is on file in the Rockefeller Institute if it's ever decided that it should be released." He also said all those years ago that the plan was to control and cull the population. The elite would do that through medicine, food, and new laboratory-made diseases. Dr. Day mentioned that letting people die of cancer would slow down the population growth. That's the reason why they're suppressing the cure for cancer. It is also the reason miracle workers like Dr. Brzezinski are dragged through the courts and destroyed by the mainstream media, despite the testimonies of thousands of cured patients.
Without this treatment, my son will die.
I remember sitting on her lap, looking up at her, wondering why she was crying. I was obviously just a kid.
I think this country has the finest bureaucratic regulations in the world, and the other countries are way behind.
What people go through with cancer, and since 1967 you've been saying, I can take care of that, and people are going, forget it, don't pay any attention. Are we that backward, doctor?
Yes.
Well, it's
What do you mean?
Yes.
Are we that backward?
Yeah.
Dr. Brzezinski saved my life.
Do you believe you would be alive without Dr. Brzezinski?
I know I would not be.
For some reason, they don't want to have cure of cancer.
25 years old at the end of the month, and there's been a cure for cancer that long.
Big Pharma has no desire to cure cancer when it's making vast fortunes from treating the symptoms. These people have no soul, and that's why they do what they do. The situation becomes even more alarming when you learn what some of the doctors on board the ill-fated flight in Brazil have discovered. Big Pharma is not just suppressing cures for cancer and diseases. Many of these modern cancers and diseases were created in labs by Big Pharma, and they're desperate to keep this murderous secret under wraps. It turns out that the key to losing weight and keeping it off is not about obsessing over carbs or fat or even probiotic-rich foods. The way to maintain a healthy weight, as well as increase your energy levels and live a long, healthy life, comes down to a specific and simple switch that you can flip in your body to flush out all of those unnecessary calories. Dr. Stephen Gundry calls this process the caloric bypass. He has seen thousands of people who have activated this process in their bodies dramatically improve their health. The people who've tried this find that their fat melts away, their energy levels improve like they were young again, and many of their health problems just simply vanish. Dr. Stephen Gundry has lost 70 pounds himself using his research, and has kept the weight off for over 20 years and counting. He says that he feels younger and healthier today than when he was 40 years old. His video has been watched by over 20 million people to date, and you can watch it and learn more by visiting thehealthyfat.com/TPV. Please click the link below this video to learn his secret technique for free at thehealthyfat.com/TPV. Big Pharma has a long and inglorious history of targeting anybody that's close to preventing or curing cancer and other profitable mass killer diseases. The bloodline families have no interest in protecting the health of the population. These psychopaths see humans as sheep and cattle to be controlled and culled. There is no more effective way to access the body than with mandatory vaccination. The world is now familiar with Dr. Anthony Fauci thanks to his starring role in the COVID pandemic. But COVID was not Fauci's first rodeo, not even close. When it comes to man-made diseases and deadly vaccines, Dr. Fauci is the OG. By 2021, Anthony Fauci had been lying, cheating, and killing for a very long time. According to NIH insiders, the modern Dr. Mengele started with small animals, torturing and killing thousands of dogs in brutal and unhinged experiments that had no scientific benefit. Emboldened, Fauci moved on to small children, depositing hundreds in an unmarked grave outside New York after degrading and inhumane experiments. We made a whole video about this psychopathic chapter in Fauci's career. It's on Rumble and everybody needs to see it. After children, Fauci turned on homosexuals, before finally unleashing hell on the general population. Here is Fauci laying out an evil plan for the AIDS epidemic in the early 80s.
Disease. I'll get to in some of the latest slides how this disease, which we surmised early on, started off in the male homosexual population in this country. Not that there was anything intrinsically different or wrong or what have you about homosexuality. It was very simple. It's straightforward epidemiology. You take an infectious agent and you introduce it into a population in which the spread among those individuals, if it's sexual contact spread, it's a perfect setup to spread. In any event, what we had was a concentration of cases, as you'll see here, in the New York metropolitan area, New York City and New Jersey, and in Los Angeles. Take an infectious agent and you introduce it into a population. You take an infectious agent and you introduce it into a population. You take an infectious agent and
you introduce it into a population
in which the spread among those individuals, if it's sexual contact spread, it's a perfect setup to spread.
33 years ago, Dr. Robert Wilner accused Anthony Fauci of genocide during the HIV/AIDS epidemic. His speech is even more pertinent today.
And I was 12 years old when the attack on Pearl Harbor came. And I remember World War II very well. And it's a very significant day today because I see an incredible parallel between what is going on in the so-called AIDS epidemic and what happened in the years preceding and resulting in World War II. The great lie of Hitler. It's amazing. I think he would envy the job being done by members of the National Institutes of Health and even the media, especially in this country. And I will put the lie to the individuals of the NIH, particularly Gallo and Fauci and Hazeltine and Essex and the rest of these scoundrels of the worst order. Criminals guilty of genocide, without a doubt. I invite them to take me to court. I wish Burroughs Wellcome would take me to court because they have been putting out a killer drug knowingly. Because in a court of law, I would have the opportunity to provide the absolute proof and evidence, as I have in my book, Deadly Deception. Now, I'm not alone in what I'm doing here today. How does the press escape such obvious truths? Why would the finest virologist in the world, the most noted virologist, member of our National Academy of Sciences, Peter Duesberg, why would he put his entire career on the line? What did he have to gain?
How could Fauci get away with all of this? It certainly helps that his wife, Dr. Christine Grady, was the head of the bioethics at the NIH. That's right. Fauci's own wife was responsible for monitoring his psychopathic behavior. Are you starting to get it now? As Robert F. Kennedy Jr. explains, Fauci should be facing a Nuremberg Code Level Red panel for what he did during the COVID pandemic.
For example, the Moderna vaccine. NIH owns half of that vaccine, 50%. So the billions of dollars that that vaccine makes, half of that goes to NIH, the agency, but there's also individuals, at least 4, and maybe 6 individuals who work for NIH who are high-level deputies under Anthony Fauci who get to collect $150,000 a year forever, not just for their lives, but their children. As long as that mRNA technology is on the market, they're going to be making money from it.
Okay,
and that is a conflict.
Hang on a minute now, because I don't want to blow by this too fast. So the National Institute of Health is getting a kickback, a bribe, a royalty, a share, whatever you want to call it. Is this not a clear conflict of interest?
Yes.
That's what you're pointing out, right?
Yeah, it is. People are shocked.
Why are you the only one talking about this?
If you talk about this kind of thing, you get censored on YouTube. You will not be allowed on the mainstream media to talk about these issues.
We are living in critical times, and here at TPV, we are determined to expose the elite and hold them to account before it's too late. Join us in our mission to wake up the masses by subscribing to the channel on Rumble and joining the People's Voice Locals community to join our amazing team. I hope to see you there. Today's video is brought to you by IPv6ers. Are you a content creator who wants to publish information online without Big Brother spying and censoring your every move? IPv6ers is set to revolutionize the way information is disseminated on the internet by eliminating the need for big tech companies to provide unreliable, overpriced services such as self-hosting, email, and data management. IPv6ers enables an easy and accessible way for you to host your own web and email server with direct end-to-end connections and enhanced security. This means no snooping from Big Brother and no interference from the technocratic elite. If Hillary Clinton can get away with running her own server, why shouldn't you? Go to thepeoplesvoice.tv/IPv6 to sign up, or click the link below this video to take back control of the internet and win the info wars against the globalists. If you like our content, help support our sponsor IPv6ers and go to thepeoplesvoice.tv/IPv6 today. Thank you IPv6ers for making this video possible.